of curious. Did anybody's speech stand out as, wow, this was really good? Does anybody want to share? Yes, no, maybe? Yeah, okay, good. Who do you think was great?
Julia.
Oh, and you're pointing at?
Julia.
Julia. Okay, and why was Julia so good?
What was that?
Why was that speech so good?
I think she made it look a lot easier than it was. Really inspired.
Okay, that's good. She made it look a lot easier than for the rest of you it may have felt. Okay, so would you say she had credibility?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. All right, so I would too. And that's part of what we're going to be talking about today is how do we come across with all that kind of confidence. Okay, good. I agree. I thought she did a great job. Anybody else?
I really liked Eric's. I thought it was really funny.
Eric's?
Yeah. I thought it was funny.
Okay, and how many of you saw Eric's little eulogy to himself? Yeah. I can't see Eric over there. That was pretty fun, wasn't it?
It was done really well, like the wording of it and everything.
Yes, his words were great. It was well done. He was organized. And did you see the facial expressions? Did you notice the gesturing, his body movements? Okay, he was animated. He wasn't overly animated, but he was definitely adding to the message through his body language. So that was excellent. All right, good. Well, I'm glad you were able to see each other, and I am looking forward to now reading your critiques. So hopefully you're all up to date for everything that was due on the 13th, and now we're ready to push on for Module 2. Last class I gave you an overview of everything we're going to be covering, but today I really want to focus on Chapter 9, and also be talking a little bit about the conclusion, because the conclusion and the introduction, remember, are very, very connected. So I won't go into detail on the conclusion, but I'm going to again make those connections so that you can see how what you say at the very beginning, you need to make sure that you wrap up at the end as well. And then on Wednesday, we're going to spend a lot of time on the body. And the body is what you won't be here for that section, so make sure you watch that video, and vice versa for those of you watching the speech today. Okay, so hopefully you pulled up in your resource book Chapter 9, and hopefully you started to see some connections, some exact references to what the resource book and what is on your rubric, all right, as well as in your outline. So let's just start off with the very beginning. All right, except I gotta find the first page. Here we are. Okay, so on this page, I want to talk about the audience attention. And there are a couple of methods that we're going to talk about that are creative and some that are so boring. All right. So after you finish listening to today's speech, I want you to be thinking about which attention getter you want to use, because I'm going to give you a bunch and I want you to pick 2 or 3. How many of you have called dibs on your Aesop fable?
I've looked at it, but it's hard to distinguish which one to pick.
I know. Well, you have an experience in your life that you want to share with people. Do you know what that is yet?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know what your experience is. Okay, so let's think about that. Everybody right now, think about the experience. So what were, if you were to, and you all can kind of follow along with me to see how this works. The experience. So Julia, can we use you for as the example?
Sure.
Okay. So Julia, you know what your experience is, yes?
Right.
What were the feelings? What did you feel inside?
Like a lot of change, like new beginnings, mixed emotions, I guess.
Okay, new beginnings. Some mixed emotions. What else?
Maybe a little nervous,
All right.
also excited.
And also what?
Excited.
Excited. All right. We don't want you to give it away just yet. All right. If you were to take one of these and say, at the end of the experience, which one of these would be, oh yeah, that was the end?
Probably excited.
Excited. All right. And then when you look at all of the others, or if you want to add, which one expressed the feelings at the beginning?
Nervous.
What a difference. All right. Would you equate excited as being positive?
Right. Yep. Yes.
Okay. And nervous, would you describe that as being negative?
Right. Uh-huh.
All right, good. All right, so you got it. Okay, so given that she has this experience at the beginning feeling very nervous, but by the end, that nervousness changed into excitement. Yes?
Yes.
All right, now, what you're going to want to do is to find a one of the fables that does this, has both parts. Okay? So look for the list and find one that the characters in the fable, start with the characters in the fable felt nervous, scared, trepidation, whatever it is. But by the end, oh my gosh, by the end, they were, excited or looking forward or, those kinds of things. Okay. So you can do it by looking at it from the beginning and the end. Or you could do it by just focusing on one of them. All right. So that's how you're going to do it. You want to focus on the feelings because this is the personal narrative. That's one approach. All right. Let's do a different approach. Okay, can somebody give me another experience without telling me what happened, but it required action, behaviors, accomplishment, doing a task, completing a job, or anything like that? Can somebody tell me or use that for an example? Does anybody have an experience like that? No?
Kind of.
Kind of? Okay, who's my kind of person? Raise your hand. All right, kind of person. Okay, and your name is?
Ella.
All right, Ella. All right, excellent. So Ella, can you give me about, again, 4 physical characteristics of things that you did for this experience?
Emotion-wise,
No, it can be physical. It could be like training or exercising or lifting something extremely heavy or anything like that?
Um, I got. I thought you were talking about something.
Do you want to do it from a feeling instead?
But I changed jobs, so that's what I was gonna like go off of.
Okay, that's good. You changed jobs. All right. So was it because you got fired or is it because you quit?
I quit.
All right. So you quit. All right. Did you go searching for a new job or did that new job come to you?
I searched for it.
Okay. Would you say that the new job is better or worse than the first job?
Way better.
All right. And are you still doing it right now?
Yes.
All right. And what happened to cause you to quit? Did you get angry? Did you get frustrated? Did you get pissed? Did you get hurt? Did you get what?
All of the above but hurt.
All of the above. Okay, so this was just like shitty job.
Oh yeah, bro.
Okay, shitty. Everything about it was just no good. All right. So when you describe your better job, all right, what is better about it? Because this was everything. So what 2 or 3 things are better about this job?
It's more relaxed, so like less responsibility, and
Okay, so it's more relaxed. Did you say more responsibilities or less?
less responsibility.
Okay. All right, so it's less pressure,
Yeah.
right? Okay. All right. So would you say then that this was the opposite?
Yeah.
That this was a lot of pressure?
Not pressure, it's just terrible.
Okay. What did you do?
Okay, I was a manager at Food Lion, and we
Oh,
went.
management sucks sometimes.
Oh,
I
yeah.
get it. I know it. So are you a manager now?
No, but I
Okay.
don't mind. We're on base
But you
now.
don't mind. Oh, I love it. Okay. So you don't mind not having the title, right? This one you had a title, but was it worth it? Okay, no. Yeah, probably made more money too, right?
Not worth it, but yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's think about this then. Would you say that by quitting, you were able to make a huge change? You were able to take control. You were able, any of these, you know, if these don't work, anything else. Were you able to feel better about yourself? Oh, look at that. Okay, all right. So this one, feeds your self-esteem. Were you getting yelled at a lot in this one?
So I was yelling at people a lot.
Oh, you were yelling at people.
Yeah, at my managers.
Okay, so you were being the, okay. So you were unhappy with others.
Yeah.
Are you happy with others here?
I guess.
Does it matter because you're happy with yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you're happy about yourself, okay, and others. All right. So basically, you're talking about climate or culture. You're talking about workplace policies, rules, any of those kinds of things. So what you can do is choose a fable that goes from bad, okay, something bad, something wasn't working, something was broken, something was whatever, to now good. All right? But it required you to do something, which is change. All right? Or maybe your fable will be something about taking control or taking back control or, something like that. Does that help you a little bit?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, do y'all see? This is what you do. We are brainstormers about our speeches before we start writing an outline. And the best thing to do is to actually sit with a piece of paper and just doodle, draw. As you can see, this would be sort of like a mind map, a little bit of a brainstorm linearly, but it's more like, okay, I'm just going to kind of start at the beginning and think about the end, or sometimes I start with the end. I am so much happier now. Now, why am I happier now? When I consider what I'm doing now versus what I was doing then, yelling, 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 and not yelling, not yelling, then you start to learn about yourself. So that's what we want you to do. Okay. Now, what's important for both Ella and also for Julia is you now could start using this kind of information to help you with your attention getter. All right? So I'm going to erase this.
So is this next speech outline going to be, I haven't looked at it yet, a comparison of our experience to a fable?
Can you repeat that one more time?
I haven't actually looked at our second outline yet. Is it going to be like a comparison of our experience with a fable?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. Yep, that's exactly right. So, and they should be directly related. They should be related. So whatever is in the fable should be similar to what happened to you in your own life. So think of it as in the fable, there's going to be remember there's going to be a moral. All right? And in your own personal experience is a lesson. We just use different words, but they're the same thing. All right? Something about, this is something that's good, and bad. All right? Helpful or evil kind of thing. And this is what you're going to talk about. So whatever is your own personal experience, that's the modern day current application of the moral that was told in the ancient story, in the ancient fable. Okay? Good questions. All right, so now let's look at attention getters. I want you to jump over. Actually, let's not get there yet. Let's look at page 1.3 under chapter 9, 1.3. I want you to notice something that was one of the first points that you said was good about Julia's speech. And that was that she made it look easy. And in the middle of that section there, it talks about competence. Competence. And as a communication scholar, we study communicative competence all the time, whether it's in a speaker or in a leader or, whatever it might be. And what we're looking at is how easily do they say the right thing at the right time to the right people. Okay? Say the right thing at the right time to the right people. That's competence, right? We actually look at that in my COM 120 and 110 class as what we call emotional intelligence. An emotionally intelligent person has wonderful competence at doing those things I just said. And they do it without thinking about it. It becomes second nature. And that's what we're trying to strive to help you to be, is to speak very comfortably, right? So that's competence. We also want to make sure in your introduction that you are coming across as trustworthy. We don't lie in public speaking. I know people do, but we don't. Not in my class, all right? We want to be truthful. We want to be legitimate. We want to be people of integrity and who follow ethics, and that all comes with being trustworthy. So as we are watching you give your story, we want your story to be truth, right? Think of our friend Plato. We also want to make sure that you are coming across as caring, all right? And you are caring about the goodwill for your audience. So you have your intro, and then you have your myth. And in this myth, there is a moral of what's good and what's bad, what's evil and what's holy, what is heroic and what is cowardice, all right? So whatever you're thinking of, this is what you're looking at. What's the moral of the myth, all right? Then when you tell your own story and you put in the details, the honest, descriptive details of all the colors, all the feelings, all the senses, all the emotions, all those kinds of things, what you are now doing when you get to the lesson is that you are sharing your experience with your audience so that they can learn from you. But they are learning empathetically, all right, as if they're walking in your own shoes. Because when you tell your story, you're going to tell it with such vividness that they can see themselves experiencing the same thing that you went through, all right? And that's really what you're doing with the myth, is you're taking that story from, 3,000 years ago that was told, but it's ageless. It may be different characters, they may be real people instead of animals, but the story and the struggles and the consequences and all those things, they're still relevant. They're still used today. And so that creates empathy with our ancient history, but it also then creates empathy for your audience today so that they can learn the lesson that you learned without making the same mistakes or without having those kinds of struggles, etc. Right? So that's the purpose. That's what we're trying to do. Okay. On section 1.4, it talks about provide reasons for your audience to listen. That's what you want. When you are talking about relevancy in your introduction, that is the hook. That's the connection. That's where your audience is going, what's in it for me to give you the next 3 minutes of my time? Put down my phone, stop my Snapchatting, give you my undivided attention. Don't think about the fact that I'm starving to death and I'm listening to you. All right. In that gift of time that your audience is giving you, you have to early establish that there is a reason, and that's often done with the attention getter, combined with other overt ways of saying, this is why you need to listen, okay? So that you are giving them, oh my gosh, an attention, that you're giving them a what's in it for me answer, all right? And then everything here just goes through and is an echo of what we've already talked about as being in both the outline rubric and in the actual speech rubric. So let's jump over to types of attention getters. All right. The first one they give you, and this is under Chapter 9, Section 2, 2.1. This is the worst way of grabbing the attention of anybody. And if you do this, I'm going to be very sad. All right. If you basically give a title of your speech, if you say, hi, my name is Kathy Kruska. Today I'm going to talk about struggles. Boring. All right. Exactly. Thank you. Y'all go like, that was like, ugh. Or today I'm going to talk about the purpose of casting your fishing line deep instead of shallow. That's a title. That's like the title you would put at the top. We don't use titles. Don't even give titles in your speech. Don't write a title at the top of your outline. You've got your purpose, that's all. You've got your purpose and thesis and you got that section, but don't write a title because that you will be tempted to start off by saying that. So everybody should just go like a line through 2.1 and not do it. 2.2 is making a reference to the audience. Now that's a good technique. This is where you reach out and touch you as all students. Right now, I bet you are sick and tired of being in your house. Yeah. I bet that each and every one of you would much rather be at NC State or UNC Wilmington than in your house. Okay? That is an example of referring to the audience and what the audience might prefer or want. 2.3 is excellent technique. And remember, you need to have references. So the one minimum reference is going to be your Aesop fable. I recommend that you have another one. And it can be in your introduction. It can be the attention getter. A good example of that might start off with, hi, my name is Kathy Kruska. A wise man named Aristotle once said, and then use quote, right? So using some kind of a quote is very powerful in your intro and or in your conclusion, right? So don't tell me you don't know how to do more than one. So I expect to see at least two. You only have to do at least one. I get you 3 out of 4, but if you want 4 out of 4 points, make sure you give me a second one too. There are on this page under 2.3 a whole list of excellent places for hyperlinks that will take you into quotes. And there are some great ones. There's the quotations page, bartleby.com. Quotations is a good one. Movie quotes is kind of fun, because that's one that's easy to relate to with your audience. And let's see, and Bartlett's familiar quotations is probably the most popular. In fact, I have that on my, I don't have 17th edition, but I have like a 15th edition on my bookcase. So use a quotation. That's a great technique. All right, 2.4 says to refer to current events. Oh my gosh. You could relate anything to, let's see, fires in California, COVID and having to wear a mask, and COVID parties, Greek parties on college campuses. You could talk about the election. You could talk about all kinds of stuff. So things that are in current events. That's for like right now. 2.5 says that if you don't want to talk about a current event, you could go back into history. And it's interesting because if you were talking about set things up, you're going to be doing an informative speech about something today, you could refer to it or connect back to something that happened 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So this classic example, maybe you want to talk about your right to vote. You just went and voted and you are feeling good about yourself. And you happen to be a woman. And you start off by saying, today I voted. 100 years ago, I would not have been allowed to vote. So you can make those kinds of correlations. 2.6 gives you an example of using an anecdote, which is just really a short story. Now they talk about in the resource book that the Aesop fable is a type of anecdote or an allegory or something that you can use. We are using that, but we're usually going to use that as a main point. We're not going to use that as an attention getter. In your later speeches, you could do something like that. 2.7 is that startling statement or that startling statistic. So remember the video, I walk into my high school students and I say, right, 8 out of 20 students who graduate from high school are going to have a sexually transmitted disease. Okay, startling statistic. But you have to give you the source, and of course you get the source. All right, 2.8, also put a slash through that. I hate this approach. I hate it, hate it, hate it. It is overdone, overused, very elementary, middle schoolish, really doesn't get good scoring points. Now, it's the asking a question. By a show of hands, how many of you? Right? Or the other one is, I have a question for you to think about. And then you give a rhetorical question where you don't expect anybody to answer. You can also, on 2.9, use a joke, but be very, 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 very careful. If you're not good telling jokes, don't go there. I'm terrible at it. I always give away the punchline too soon, or I start to giggle and then I lose it. Know what you're good at, and I am not good at that, so I never go there. So you pick, again, be competent, pick the things that are going to be good for you, because a poorly chosen joke can be offensive, can be off color, can be stupid. Just fill in the blank. The last thing they said is that you can make a personal reference to something about yourself. So when I talk about, my life and business, or earlier when I said a personal reference when I would walk into my high school morality classes and I would tell them, all right, today I'm going to talk about STDs. Okay, no, that would be a title. Today I would say 8 out of 20 right? That's a personal reference to something that you've done in the past, and you can certainly use that. All right, and of course you can reference the occasion itself, which is what they do at toasts all the time, you know. Today we are gathered here to honor this man and this man in holy matrimony, right? All right, so now that, I want you to go over to section 3, 3.2. And 3.2 is the WIFM or the relevancy again, but it gives another phrase. When you turn in your outline, I'm reading it. And I'm reading it as if I was an 18, 16, 17-year-old, 20-year-old. And I'm going to be reading it and I'm going to be saying this sentence. Why should I care about what you're going to say? Why should I care? Make sure you can answer that question. Make sure. If you cannot answer that question, then you need to select a different topic or a different experience. And sometimes that means you have to self-disclose and say things about you that might be uncomfortable. Oh, but it can be so healing. I had a retired veteran of special ops who was encouraged to take public speaking as part of his therapy. And he, by the time he got to the third speech, which was a PowerPoint presentation speech, and he talked about what happens in war with everything that is brought in, all the equipment, supplies, and all those things, and how they destroy them before they leave the location, and how sometimes there's fallout as a result of that can result in consumption of fumes or radiation or those kinds of things. And he also had with that an explosion that was attached to something that went very wrong. And he still suffered from PTSD about it. When he delivered his speech, he choked up a couple times. He got up to one point in the speech, I remember, where he said nothing. He just stood there. And his audience was so quiet and so respectful. And I said, take your time, it's okay. And he did. And then he began to speak again. And he finished his speech. And at the end of his speech, he broke down in tears. I mean, this is a big, burly guy, special ops. And afterwards, he just sat down, and he was the last speaker because he signed up to be the last one, and he just cried. And the students, who were mostly very young, as they left, they walked by and they put a hand on his shoulder, and they left. And at the end, I came up, and I never stand, you never stand above somebody like that. I pulled up a chair, and I sat down, and I waited. And then he proceeded to pull himself, and his first words out of his mouth were, thank you. Thank you for helping me get through this. That was the speech of a lifetime. That's what we mean when he gave a speech that he wanted every young person in there to care about him and PTSD and our community of other soldiers who experienced it. That's what I want you to do. I don't want you to waste our time. I want you to pick an experience that's meaningful. It can still be very lighthearted. It can still be a beautiful enjoyment. It can be the coolest thing in the whole world. That's wonderful. It doesn't always have to be It can be very uplifting. Go for it. All right. There's more information in here about the thesis statement. You guys can read these all on your own. I'm going to talk a lot about the body and specifically descriptive and detailed language. So make sure you watch that video on Wednesday since you won't be here. And I'll stick around for a few minutes. If you have any questions you want to ask me as you exit, call dibs on your fable. Call dibs on your fable. Don't wait until Sunday because the one you want will probably be taken. Call dibs.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for participating.